Welcome to part 3. Right off the bat, what you might notice, this tier is a little smaller because we have our new tier, Perfectly Sufficient Incidental Chads, which I mentioned I was going to add earlier. This is the tier of characters who don't really have much going for them, but they don't really have to. They accomplish what they need to and are perfectly fine, and are really good for what they are. For example, Carter here. He's just some Crane Thomas meets, but he still has a very distinct personality despite having 2 lines, and I appreciate that. So that's what these characters are, to contrast with a character like the Car, who I literally just this Car is also just kind of an incidental character, but I don't know, I have no idea what she is, nor do I really care to know what she is. So that's why she's down here, and they're up here. With that said, let's go on. Hopefully, we'll get through more than 2 letters of the alphabet. Edward, no surprise, is going very high. I'm putting him here, and honestly, Edward has never been a character who, I myself have just been oh, yes, Edward. Don't get me wrong, he's a wonderful character. I think he's really well written, really interesting, really great, and just he's a wonderful character. But I guess he was just never one that was one of my favorites. But he ultimately is really just kind of too good of a character to put any lower. But he's just not getting in the top 5. So yeah, there's Edward. Elizabeth. Elizabeth is great, honestly. She is a really good character. And I really wish they did more with. I'm going to put her up in this tier, a little bit above Derek. Maybe even not quite above Birdie. Yeah, you know what? Above Birdie. Boy, I do really like Birdie. But I'm gonna put her above Birdie. She's just great. She's another character. She might, I mentioned how Cranky would be the character who I would put in the Railway series retrospectively if there was only one I could. Elizabeth would be pretty high up on that list too. I don't know if number 2, maybe Salty or Ryan or Glenn, whoever, might be a contender for number 2, but Elizabeth is high up on that list for sure. This guy, Emily, another case of taking the best version of herself. Season 7 Emily is alright. Brenner Emily is boring as heck, but this is an interesting case for Emily that's maybe a little bit rare, but season 8 to 12, and even 13 to 16, but to a lesser extent, mostly 8 to 12, Emily is so fun. I really love her. She's a perfect, people say oh, she's so mean, she's so bossy and unlikable. I don't think she's got plenty of instances where she's a perfectly likable, friendly character. Oh, goodness gracious. She's got flaws. She's a bit bossy. She's a bit stuck up. She thinks she knows best. But, I don't know, she's very well-rounded, I think. And I really appreciate that. In that era, I mean, to be fair, they did a really good job with the main characters in the hit era, for the most part. There were not all of them. Cough, cough, Toby. But most of them, I think they did a really good job of making them, 2-dimensional, 3-dimensional even, just, being more than just the gimmick, which the Brenner era kind of does. Either the gimmick or nothing, which is what they did with Emily. But hit era Emily, for me, is absolutely the true Emily, and I really like that version of Emily. So she is very splendid, Zunes. This thing, Esther, Etienne, I don't know. I don't care. But he's got a funny mustache. Does the funny mustache justify him being up here? I don't think so. Fergus. Fergus is okay. I'm kind of thinking I'm gonna put him here. He's one of my lesser favorite model series characters, honestly. At least as far as the ones who have a character. But, like, yeah, I don't know. He's got his gimmick, and, like, you can write some interesting stuff about him, but I don't know. Just from what the episodes gave us, I was never crazy about Fergus. He's fine. This guy, I want to say Fernando, but it might be Francisco. Yeah, I literally don't care. Flora. Yeah. I think she might have a little. I might be a little more interested in her than like Colin. As far as the season 12 newbies go. Mostly just because I think you could do some interesting things with the concept of the Sodor tramway. And I think that's kind of something interesting that I like to explore. And I think her just kind of either being a Great Waterton or being associated with Toby, there's some stuff you can, like, some easy character pairings you could find to help beef her up a little bit. Her character up. Like, you could put her with Mavis, put her with Thomas and Percy, Henrietta. Like, there are characters that you could pair her with to kind of flesh her out a little bit. So I think I'm kind of a little more interested in her than Colin. I mean, she's nothing special. Flying Scotsman. Here's kind of a character a little similar to Diesel 10, where there's like two very distinct versions of him, and it's kind of a little tough to pick which I like more, because I really like the kind of like unity that's the brotherly bond with him and Gordon. I think that's really cool, and I think makes more sense for kind of like the post-dieselization world that the series kind of is in after a certain point. But the CGI like interpretation of him is really fun too. I think it's a lot easier to justify the two versions of him than it is with Diesel 10. Like Diesel 10, I don't know if I can. I think I can with Flying Scotsman. We're gonna put him right here. I think I can justify the versions of him. Like, I think the relationship he has with Gordon maybe was what they had before dieselization. Dieselization comes, and they're kind of more like, all right, we got to stick together. We got to put all that aside and be in this together. All our brothers are going. And that's kind of where they're just strong and together. And that's kind of Railway Series. And then maybe after that, Flying Scotsman gets preserved. He gets famous. Gordon gets famous from kids' books, so Scotsman kind of has a one-up on him, and then they kind of are able to get back to that friendly rivalry when they're not kind of burdened by something they have to face together. It's kind of in the past, so I could kind of justify it being like different phases of his life. But yeah, I think both versions of him are really fun and really cool. He's just a very cool character, so. Flynn. He's just, like, I don't know. Like, on one hand, I think he's so funny. Like, Fiery Flynn is such a stupidly funny episode. Like, the moment where, like, he sprays Edward, and Edward's like, what are you doing? Stop it. And he's just like, you're not on fire? Like, it's delivered. I don't know. It's really funny. And I enjoy it, but it's kind of just an ironic. I don't know. Like, he's just so stupid. And I think if you want to have this, like, cool fire engine character, that's not really the way to go about it. Unless if you want to have him be this stupid hothead that everyone knows is a stupid hothead and has to kind of, like, if you have Belle kind of be like, all right, Flynn, like, come here, we gotta sort you out because you're a dumbass. Like, that would make him a little better, and like you wouldn't have to change him much. You would just kind of have to change everyone's reaction to him. But I don't know. He paints a kind of a bad picture for like firefighters, and I don't know. That just doesn't. And like the rail and road thing, like it's kind of cool, But on one hand, I almost think I just prefer it if he was, like, just on roads. Like, as a kid, when I saw that, I was so confused. And, like, the fact that the road wheels are just, like, hanging up here when he's on the rails, like, it just didn't look right to me, like, even as, like, a kid. And I kind of just wish he was on the road. Um, but yeah, he's kind of funny in ways he maybe shouldn't be funny. And I almost would like to kind of split his character into two, to have like the really serious, fiery Flynn, and I'm here to the rescue, and actually like a kind of a badass, and then the stupid hothead who makes a mess of things because he's this cocky idiot. Like, I kind of want to split those characters in two. Call them Flynn and Flynn, and they can be firefighters together. That I think I might like. But as he stands, Flynn is kind of just Frankie. She's a big mixed feelings. Um, and I can kind of like her more if I say to myself that her whole breakdown at the end where she starts crying is all just an act and she's just manipulating everyone to get what she wants. That makes me like her a bit more, but I don't think that's like the actual answer, which kind of makes it a bad look for her as a character. If she was just like, I really like the idea of her kind of being just this conniving, manipulative person who like gets people into her like steelworks and puts them to work. I think that's a really cool idea, and then they kind of ruined it. But I think if I were to like go with my own AU route, I think I can justify her a bit more. But like, kind of with Ace, like, I can't call it like, oh, he was derailed. Like, it's the same version of the character. It's still like the Wubba version of the character, and with Frankie even more so. It's just in one movie, so like, I can't separate the two versions like I can with some other characters. So yeah, Freddy's cool. He's cool. We'll put him in this tier. Sure, yeah, he's neat. Definitely the superior number 7. Ivo Hugh's not on this list because it's just TV series. But Ivo Hugh is boring. I don't care. Like, he's that serves no purpose. Freddy is actually a good, like a real character, and he has like real dynamics and like actual things he can do, like stories you can write him in that aren't just like making stuff up about him from scratch. There are some continuity issues with Freddy that you gotta work through. And like for him, I'm kind of okay with like breaking canon and like changing the episode a little bit to make him make sense. But yeah, I think he's just a cool character. Frida, she was okay. She's kind of in the same category with some of these other international characters. They're all kind of going to be together. Like they're not just nothing, but they're not much. Yeah, this character is nothing, but I'm going to put her a little bit higher than some of these because her design is brilliant. I really like her design, and she's got like a character description on like some bio or something where she's like this old gossipy lady, which I think is such a fun concept, and I'm so mad they didn't go with it. Honestly, screw the Brazil episodes; they suck. What's her name even? Is it Gabriella? Is that it? I want to say yeah. But boy, is she nothing in the show. Gator. Yeah, this is kind of going to be controversial, but yeah. Yeah, I don't know. Gator, like, we say, like, oh, he's got so much mystery around him, but to me it always felt like they just didn't know what to do with him, and so they, like, covered up the fact that they didn't have any ideas with this whole mystery thing. He's also got the same issue as, like, Carly and Darcy, where he is a character of a specific origin, but he's also not. Like, if he was just a Colombian character, same way Hero is a Japanese character, I'd have no problem with that. That could be really interesting. But he's British. I don't know, just like, and they even talk about like, I don't know, he's a mountain engine, and like they talk about like, oh, I was built to work in the mountains. So you think like, okay, this should be tying into like where he's actually from, and then I don't know, like it really just feels like, I don't know, they needed some character to be an embodiment of the theme of being brave, and like that's really all he is. His dynamic with Percy is nice, but it also kind of perpetuates like uwu little scared baby Percy, which I kind of hate. Um, so I don't know. I like his voice. I like his design. He's got a nice vibe, but he just feels uninspired, honestly. So yeah, George. George is a very cool antagonist. That's up there with Bulgy as one of my favorite antagonist characters. So yeah, we're gonna put them together. He's really cool. I think, like as a kid, his motivate, like obviously, like Birdie and Bulgy are both buses, but they have like different ideals about road and rails. And you can just say that's just their personality. But George, I think, is such like a perfect, like we kind of talk about like the kind of personification, metaphorical element of the characters, which is not to say like people say like, oh, it means like they're not actually alive, which doesn't really make sense. But like that's not what the argument actually is. It's like they are alive and their personality is based on like the reality of what the real engine would be like. So Gordon is like this big grand engine, so he's this big pompous character. So like that's how that works. And George, the fact, like to me, that like I mean by George, it was the first episode I saw him, and I saw that before Steamroller. The fact that he like flattens the tracks, and I always like took that as like him flattening like wooden railway tracks and like flipping them over, turning them into road. Like somehow in my mind, I justified that like that's what the road track was made for. It was made so you could have George flatten it. So the idea that this Steamroller was like this anti-rail character just made so much sense to me as a kid. Like, and it does, it really does, because he makes roads. That is what the Steamroller does. Like Bulgy and Birdie, they carry passengers on the road, so they are like the antithesis to a steam engine in that regard. Like they do the steam engine's job, but on the rails. So it would make sense that they have a rivalry with the steam engines because they're trying to do the same things on different mediums. But George is literally, honestly, thinking about it now, I think that almost kind of makes him a little cooler than Bulgy. Because like it just fits so well with it. That is like his purpose, is to replace rails with roads. It just works so well for him. George is great. Gina, gonna be real, did not care for her. She did not strike me as likable. And here's the thing, like in the Digs and Discoveries episodes, like people say like, oh, finally someone like stands up to Thomas, which like yeah, but I mean, first of all, that's not. I mean, like look at Gordon. Gordon's down here. We haven't gotten to Gordon. Like look at Gordon. It's not like nobody's telling Thomas off. Gordon's doing it constantly. Edward's doing it even. Like it's not something that only she's doing. And also like it kind of just isn't a good look. And this is kind of more an issue with Thomas as a character than Gina, but it just kind of makes a bad look for Gina. Is the fact that like in those episodes, like Big World, like Thomas is like written very much like a little kid who's kind of really curious and interested in everything, but kind of stupid. Like that's how he kind of comes across, and I really don't like that. But like the fact that that is how he comes across really makes Gina look like it's just an adult woman bullying a little kid because he doesn't know things about different cultures. Like I don't know, it just she just did. She just makes fun of him. Like I don't know. She just was not very likable for me. Um. So yeah, Glenn. This might be a hot take. I mean, we haven't got to this yet, but I like Glenn decently more than Steven. Part of that, I'll get to this with Steven, is because like with Steven, there is just kind of some like issues with like his history. But I think Glenn. I mean, don't get me wrong. Steven's a cool character. I'll get to him, but Glenn is just really cool. Um, so he's a really great character. His backstory is integrated really well. He's just a lot of fun. He's one of my favorite CGI, even just TV series in general. He's a great character. All right, Gordon time. I always feel like people are gonna freak out like that I like put Gordon in not bad, I guess. I'm just scrolling up to get to the top here, guys. Okay, Gordon. Oh boy, Gordon is so good. Um yeah, Gordon's great. It's been said, like we all know, Gordon's just again, this is keeping in mind best versions of the character. Um but yeah, Gordon is wonderful. And that's that. I'm just realizing we have already gotten through E, F, and we're almost through G. Granted, there was only like a couple F characters anyways. We're making good progress. Yay! Geez, we might even get through the H's, maybe. Yeah, we can probably get through the H's. And there's not many I's or J's. Or K's even. Oh boy, we could go some distance. Not if I keep talking about letters though. Gustavo. Yeah, we'll put him kind of here. I think on one hand he's a little more interesting than some of just like the random internationals, because I think the idea of like having this parallel to Gordon that Thomas meets is pretty cool. I don't like that it's basically just used to have Thomas be like, oh gosh, this is going to be like Gordon, and the twist to it, I guess I'll say, is that like, oh, I'm not actually like Gordon. I'm actually really nice, and it just kind of is made to trash on Gordon, which I kind of hate. I think it'd be more interesting if like Gustavo or whoever is like showing this other side, or is like illuminates Thomas to another side of Gordon that he hadn't thought of before, and it's used to like grow their relationship instead of make Gordon look like the worst and this random new guy from to be all cool and stuff. So I don't know. His design is like kind of cool, but also it just doesn't look very Thomasy. It looks, I don't know. It's just something about it does not quite work for me. Hank. Hank's pretty cool. I just watched his episode earlier today, actually. Not today when you guys are seeing this, but today when I'm seeing this, which is the same time I'm making this whole tier list. I think this is a good tier for Hank. Maybe here. But I'm gonna put him here. I think on some level, I think I like him more than like Big Mickey. But I was kind of saying with Big Mickey, honestly, now that I'm saying it, I almost think Big Mickey might kind of go down here. But like Big Mickey was used the perfect amount, and I think Hank is really cool, but he needed kind of more stuff to do to really get to that level of coolness that he has. And Big Mickey he's just cool. So I think that's kind of why Hank is lower in this case. Because I think he is really cool, but he wasn't able to reach the height of his coolness. Just a little sad. Hannah, okay. We're into H, yep. I guess, yeah, not bad, I guess. I think Hannah was pretty neat. In fact, I think I'd put her at the top of this tier. I kind of like the idea of her, and I think she as a character was actually pretty good. Maybe a little obnoxious, but not too bad. My issue with her story is really more about Toby than it is with her, and how butchered he is. Gosh, I hate CGI Toby. I'll get to him. But I think Hannah herself feels like something that could have come out of the Railway series. And I think all you need for that story to feel like a really solid, like, classic story is have Toby be Toby and, like, tell Hannah off. Like, he's like, all right, you are going to calm down, or that's it. And, like, the same events can happen, but instead of Toby being like, oh, he's going too fast, and, like, wobble away all scared and, like, literally, like, shaking. Like, that was a low point for Toby. Goodness gracious. Like, gosh, they made him so pathetic. I hate it so much. Oh my gosh, I'm getting mad as I talk about it. But, like, if he was just like, no, I'm not dealing with this. This is ridiculous. Like, it was more of a stubborn, angry kind of thing. Like how he is with Mavis or Daisy. Like, that's exactly how he should be with Hannah. And if it was that, and then Hannah, like, goes with James and has her big wreck, like, I think that'd be, like, a perfect kind of reality series setup for a story. The caveat there being she probably would die, and that would be the end of her. Which would be maybe kind of interesting. I don't think the CGI series would do that. I'm almost interested in the idea of, like, Toby pulling Henrietta and Hannah together the same way Thomas is Annie and Clarabelle. Of course, that being if Toby is fixed and Hannah is maybe mellowed out a little. But I think that could be interesting. Or alternatively, you just have her as a spare coach. Maybe like Mavis or Flora pulls her sometimes. Maybe Percy pulls her even. Or she's just a spare if Henrietta's not around. Which is kind of like what they did with her in like season 22. It's like, I don't have a problem with her staying around. She's fine. In fact, honestly, I might, she can go up here. Yeah. In fact, there you go, Hannah. You're better than Captain. Good for you. Happy Hook. Okay, I might as well tackle all three of the cranes, the faceless cranes that aren't really characters, but I put them on anyways. They have names, and they're kind of treated like characters, so I put them on. These are not necessarily easy to rank, these three, but I don't know. I guess I'll put them here, because, like, they're... Yeah. But I'm definitely going to say Hee-Haw, the lowest, then Happy Hook, and Ol Weezy is going all the way up here. Ol Weezy's just fun. I'm cry every night because I don't have the Wooden Railway Ol Weezy, and I wanted it so bad when it came out, and I never got it. It's really sad, and I've been trying to live with that every day of my life since then. But yeah. Yeah, okay. Ol Weezy is just... Ol Weezy wobbles. I, like, recorded, like, the PBS broadcast of that episode. I don't remember what episode it was, like, paired with. Probably just, like, the next episode in the season 16 lineup or whatever. But I watched that episode... Off the top of my head, I want to say Thomas Toots the Crows or something. But that's not important. But I watched that episode so many times. It was an episode about Ol Weezy. And that's just my favorite thing ever. In fact, you know what? Screw it. Ol Weezy is, like, going up. Like, I don't care. This is 10-year-old me desperately wanting Wooden Railway Ol Weezy talking. But Ol Weezy's going up here, and I'm not going to apologize. Alright, let's move on to Harold. And we'll try and get through the J's, maybe even the K's, maybe even the L's. Okay, to be fair, there's, like, a lot more, like, A's and B's than there are, like, HIJKLs. So, I guess we're moving a little faster now. Harold is a wonderful character. I do think he's a little too soft nowadays, but also, like, I don't have a problem with him being a nice, helpful guy also. But I kind of wish there was a bit of a balance between kind of stuck-up, condescending Harold and nice, helpful rescue Harold. So we're going to put him right around here. And yeah, that's a good spot for Harold. Good classic character. I love his rivalry with Percy. And I like that they kept that again in season 20. And actually, Percy felt like Percy there. I'll talk about Percy later. Harvey. where I put him on the tier list probably won't be controversial, but I think why I put him there will be, and I'll get to that. People talk about like CGI Harvey being a big improvement. I disagree. I'm not a fan of how he's handled in CGI. I think I don't know, he's too sad, too. I don't really care for like the insecure, kind of sad Harvey that we get a lot in the CGI series. I really like Harvey, actually. In fact, I think here I could justify putting him up here, but I think right here is good. I love Harvey in the model series. I think his debut episode having him, be sad when people are mocking him like behind his back, but like within earshot of him. Like they're being mean. So of course he's gonna be upset about that. And like be like, yeah, he shouldn't be here. But I don't like to think of him as like insecure and like like every time, even like we see, like you could almost argue like, oh, Edward strikes out. He's like, oh, I can't live this. Well, sure, like yeah, duh, he can't lift Gordon. Like he's not being like, no, I can't do it. He's also like, yeah, no, I can't do that. That's above my pay grade. Like I really love the idea of like Harvey kind of just being this big jolly guy who's just gonna give you a big hug after you like skin your knee or something, and just like I love the idea that he doesn't just put you back on the tracks and like fix the damage after an accident, but he fixes your damage and cheers you up. And I think my favorite, Harvey moment, maybe like ever, is what is it? Thomas saves the day. Thomas saves the day. Thomas to the rescue. Which one is it? Thomas to the rescue is the quarry one. So Thomas saves the day, the one with the difficult bend in season 8. Like when he puts Thomas back on the track, and like Thomas is sad, like, oh, I can't clear the difficult bend without Annie and Clarabelle, and Harvey's like, you're a really useful engine and a jolly good friend. Like that line stuck with me all my life. It's just like, that's what Harvey is like. And I just don't feel like that's really him in CGI. So I don't know. But again, going by the best version of him, the defining characterization in my mind, and yeah, he is really cool. Hector's neat. I think he's quite interesting. I think, yeah, he'll go in this, yeah, they cool. And I think right there, he's a good spot. Let's keep it brief. But yeah, Hector is quite cool. I do really like his episode. It took me a really long time to find it, because like they weren't airing it on PBS for a while, and I couldn't find it on YouTube, so it took me a long time to like watch his episode. I think I actually just wanted to watch it because I knew Bill and Ben were in it. But Hector is really fun. I almost kind of wish he'd stayed mean a little longer before he kind of revealed like why he was acting out. But I guess for the air he's in, they can't have him be mean for too long. But yeah, I would have maybe liked him to be a bit of a slower burn. Henrietta. Now Henrietta, I do have some mixed feelings on her, but ultimately she is quite good, so we're going to put her in A. That's pretty good. My mixed feelings come not so much with her. I think the fact that they made her an actual character is great, and I'm totally on board for that. Yeah. But my issue, I feel like I want to say Toby was almost kind of on track to getting better, like in season 17. Granted, he had like one speaking role, and it wasn't even a big episode for him or anything. But he was like almost back, like almost on the right track. And I think Henrietta kind of made it worse. Like, and Hasty Hannah is a big example of Toby became like dependent on her to have any kind of stability, and whenever he was without her, he was this jittery, like, oh, he was just a mess, and it's so pathetic. And I think I kind of hate to say it, but I kind of think what they did with Henrietta maybe kind of pushed that a little more. And I think if Toby had been, like, totally fixed, and he was just Toby again, and then, like, they made just Henrietta exactly how they made her, it would have been totally fine, and I would have loved it. And they would have had a great dynamic. But I kind of think what they did do maybe didn't totally help for Toby. But for Henrietta, on her own, I think she's brilliant. She's really fun. I love her voice. And yeah, like, her face kind of makes that back balcony kind of awkward because there's not a door there anymore. But, like, even in the Railway series, when they gave her a face in that one illustration, like, that was still an issue. So, I don't know. I think the face looks nice. It looks Henrietta-y, even if it is kind of a little weird how it works. But I really like that it's there, and I can kind of just be like, oh well. I mean, you have to ask that question with every character's, like, their smoke box door, so I don't know. It's not that big of a deal for me. But she is very good, and I just wish we got her with the real Toby. Henry, another big case of the better version of him, because the proper version of Henry is also very brilliant. In fact, I'm putting him not quite above Cranky. I really love Cranky, but he's great. Maybe not even quite above Donald and Douglas, because I really love Donald and Douglas, but I really love Henry, honestly. I think he's got such an interesting story in the Railway series that a lot of people kind of gloss over as either, oh, he's this nice, sympathetic, happy guy, or, oh, he's just Freight Gordon. And neither of those really do Henry justice. I've made like a whole thread about it before, so I'm not going to talk about it right now much. But he's just got a very interesting character journey, and I love that for him. He's very interesting, very strong character. So yeah, that's Henry. Hero. Hero's great. He is also one of my favorite. One of my favorite CGI characters. He is Zoom's How Splendid. Lower end of this category, but still, this is tier 3. This is great. Standing. He is wonderful. I love his voice. I love his design. And I love even his backstory. It kind of creates some problems, but I can think of ways to, like, work around it. Like, I can say, like, oh, he was on some, like, isolated line that didn't connect with the Northwestern Railway, so he didn't see any of the other engines. So he thought, like, yeah, I'm the only engine here. And that just is what he concluded, and, like, that's what he thought. And that makes sense to me. I can justify that, and the problem's gone. The one problem I do still have is his design is just kind of a little too modern for, like, the age of his character. And I know there's a lot of talk about, like, oh, like, the basis age doesn't necessarily mean, like, the character's age, but I don't really like that. I kind of feel like that cheapens, like, Edward, he is wise because he is experienced and has lived a long time. So, like, to say if Percy or whoever was built in 1905, which is stupid, but he's, like, how he is, he's like a childlike character, then it kind of turns it down to, like, okay, your personality just comes at random. You're either old and wise from the minute you're born, or you're a child forever. And I feel like that kind of cheapens some of the characters' like growth and like development. So I kind of want to say Hero's basis like should be older than what it is. And there are like other like bases that are similar to what Heroes are that are a bit older. Like there's a D50, he's a D51. And there's some others kind of like, or no, J51, sorry. JNR D51. I probably getting the exact thing wrong, but like there's another like the previous version of his class that you could almost say he used to be that, and then he was like rebuilt into this version. Which, like, if Henry can go from some Gresley design to a Black 5, then like yeah, Hero can go from the older version of his class to the newer version of his class. Like, so I can justify stuff with this, and I've been talking too long about Hero. Boy, I'm not going to get through the H's and the I's and the J's and the K's. Hongmei, I think she's a little more than nothing, but again, not much. And I guess above Dustin. But I don't even think Carly and Darcy. Yeah, she really didn't do much. Is that okay? Hugo and we'll do Hugo and Hurricane. Did not actually. You know what? Hugo's bad. I don't care. Don't like Hugo. His design is ugly. His face is ugly. His character is non-existent. He's a gimmicky propeller merchandise thing. His episodes feel uninspired. He's just bad. I can't think of a single good thing to say about Hugo, honestly. Hurricane, he's going to the same kind of range as Frankie for similar reasons. I might say I like him a little more because I feel like they had a stronger idea for what his character was going to be, and they stuck to it, and it like worked. But I do think they kind of, I don't know, missed what could have maybe kind of made him cooler. So yeah, he's going to go kind of there. And that's going to wrap up the H's, and we'll make more progress in part 4. See you then.